Today we're looking at just a 3-1 to 3 review for our DLD. So this is what we've talked about kind of in class all week. These first few problems we're going to do, they're telling us identify each pair of angles as corresponding, alternate interior, alternate exterior, or consecutive interior. So these first ones, when we look at X and Y, clearly they are on the exterior of these two lines, so they're exterior angles. They are on, so my transversal is the one line cutting there. They're on opposite sides of the transversal, so these are what we call alternate exterior angles. Okay, these are alternate exterior angles. Looking here at number 2, so here are our two lines cut by a transversal. X and Y are inside of those, so they are interior angles. They are on opposite sides. X is clearly here to the left of the transversal, Y is to the right, so they're alternate interior angles. These things should all be familiar here. Okay, so alternate interior angles there, X and Y are. Let's continue. Number 3. So again, both X and Y, and in this case X and Y, they're both inside of my two lines cut by a transversal. They're interior angles, but they're on the same side of the transversal. So we either called these consecutive interior, or you could call them same side interior angles. Okay, lastly, so here when we're looking, Y is an interior angle, X is an exterior angle. So they're not both interior or both exterior, so that tells us we should be looking at some other relationships we have between angles. This one happens to be, so Y, if you think of this first intersection here, this intersection that I've circled, that's in the bottom left, okay? And so X is in the bottom left of this the second intersection. So we say when they're in the same position of the intersection, that's how I described it in class, that these would be considered corresponding angles. So all 4 of those relationships, yes, should be reviewed, but you should be able to identify all 4 of those. And a lot of times, guys, it's in one picture, and we just, name some angle pairs. So familiar type of problem there. All right. In lesson 3.2, we learned about if we have parallel lines cut by a transversal. So in this section, these ones should have parallel lines cut by a transversal. And you can see that in this first problem. They've marked these two lines parallel. And we do have our transversal, okay? So here in problem 5, 58 and the angle we're looking for here, let's just call it X. Those are consecutive interior angles. If we remember the theorem for consecutive interior angles, it is that consecutive interior angles are supplementary. So it should be that 58 plus the measure of angle X to be supplementary means they add to 180. So solving this one would be as easy as subtracting 58 from 180. And you get the measure of angle X to be what we'd be looking at 123. 123 degrees. Alright, problem 6. Okay, so here again we've got parallel lines cut by a transversal. And so X and 109 here, these are alternate exterior angles. Should be able to see those are alternate exterior angles. And the alternate exterior angle theorem, states that these are congruent. So X, the measure of angle X would be 109 degrees. Those are congruent angles. They're alternate exteriors. Right, so 7 and 8, we're continuing with the same type of problem. We've got parallel lines cut by a transversal. Okay, so here, this angle we're looking for, again, just call it X. how is x related to 71? Those are corresponding angles. And the corresponding angle theorem says that corresponding angles are congruent. So x would be 71 degrees. All right. This last one, these are adjacent angles. These angles are a linear pair. And we do need to recall that linear pairs are supplementary. So these two angles would be supplementary. They would add to 180. So here we've got a little bit of work. It is as simple as subtracting 55 from both sides, and we would get that the measure of angle x is 125. Okay, so 125 degrees. All right, so that's using those angle relationships and the theorems that we learned in lesson 3.2 to find some missing angle measures. Alright, so in lesson 3.3 we looked at the slope of lines. We found that using a graph, and we used the idea of rise over run. Okay, guys, if I'm going to use that slope is rise over run, recall, always start at the point to the furthest left. So I start at the point furthest left on my graph. Okay, I just do this so I can develop a pattern and do it the same way every time. All right, so from this point, do I need to go up or down to get to the next point? I need to go down. So that tells me my rise, well, I'm not actually rising, I'm going down. So that tells me the rise part is going to be -1. I always run to the right, which is positive. I need to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units to the right. So my slope here, it looks to be -1 over 5. Okay, so that's the slope of a graph. Again, you can use that rise over run idea. Guys, again, I encourage you guys always start the same way. So I would always encourage you to start at the point to the left and determine first whether you've got to go up and down. That helps you figure out the rise, whether it's positive or a negative slope. All right. Continuing here, finding the slope between 2 points. So we need to use the formula for slope, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And this is just as simple as, you know, assigning one of these, column x1, y1, and then, well, your other point's x2, y2. And so if we substitute in, so the y coordinate of the second point, -11, minus the y coordinate of the first point, 20, over the x coordinate of the second point here is 9, minus x coordinate of the first point, 3. And let's just simplify. So -11 minus 20, that's a -31. Over 9 minus 3 is a +6. All right, and so -31 over 6, not going to simplify. Okay, just leave it as a fraction. That is reduced all of the way. All right, here we're finding the slope given an equation of a line. Okay, well, this equation is in slope-intercept form. It's in mx plus b form. So m is the slope. Here it looks like they've substituted -1/2 for slope. So slope is -1/2. All right, pretty brief review here. You guys will have an assignment here that goes with the DLD. Shouldn't take you too long, using a lot of these same ideas that we've just gone over. So thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. See you all Monday.